Speaking of people freaking out about simple blowings, the Mad Gasser of Mattoon, that was a good segue, am I right? Also known as the Anesthetic Prowler, Fritz the Phantom Anesthesiast, the Mad Gasser of Roanoke, or simply the Mad Gasser, was the name given to the person or people believed to be responsible for a series of apparent gas attacks that occurred in Beautoncourt County, Virginia, during the early 1930s, and in Mattoon, Illinois, during the mid-1940s. Whether the attacks were anything more than a case of mass hysteria, if the individual reports were connected, and the ultimate explanation for the events all remain debated. So it's still kind of an unknown mystery. So most contemporary descriptions of the Mad Gasser are based on the testimony of Mr. and Mrs. Bert Kearney. These victims were of the first Mattoon case to be reported by the media. They described the Gasser as being a tall, thin man dressed in dark clothing and wearing a tight-fitting cap. Another report made some weeks later described the Gasser as being a female dressed as a man. The Gasser had been described as carrying a flit gun, an agricultural tool for spraying pesticide, which he purposely used to expel the gas. So the first recorded Mad Gasser incident occurred in Virginia. So the attacks occurred between December 22nd, 1933 and February 1934. So like over a year worth of these attacks.
Wow.
So the first reported Gasser incident occurred at the home of Cal Huffman in Haymaker Town, which sounds like a really neat place. There were 3 reported attacks over the course of a single night.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so at about 10 p.m. on December 22nd, Mrs. Huffman reported smelling an unusual odor and was overcome by a feeling of nausea. The odor and nausea returned again at about half an hour later, at which time Cal Huffman contacted the police. A third attack occurred at around 1 a.m., this time affecting the entire house. In total, 8 members of the Huffman family were affected by the gas, along with Ashby Henderson, a guest staying in the house. Their symptoms included headaches, nausea, facial swelling, constriction of the mouth and throat. Alice Huffman, the daughter of Cal Huffman, suffered a more severe reaction to the gas than the other residents. Her throat became so constricted that she stopped breathing and had to be resuscitated.
Fuck.
Yeah. She also suffered convulsive fits for several weeks after the attack. The local physician, S.F. Driver, recorded at the time that he believed this was most likely due to the anxiety brought on by the attack rather than the effects of the gas. So there were a couple other incidences that happened and stuff, and there's just a bunch.
Yeah.
So in Mattoon, the second spate of Mad Gasser incidents happened in late August 1944. First of those incidences happened to Urban Rafe. The guy's name was Urban Rafe.
That's a cool name.
Right? Which is weird because they apparently lived in a suburban area. I'm not even joking. That is a really inconvenient name. He was wakened during the early hours of the morning by a strange odor.
Ooh.
He felt nauseated and weak and suffered from a fit of vomiting. Suspected he was suffering from a domestic gas poisoning. Rafe's wife decided to check the kitchen stove to see if there was a problem with the pilot light, but found that she was partially paralyzed and unable to leave the bed.
Shit.
Later that night, a similar incident was also reported by a young mother living close by. She was awakened by the sound of her daughter coughing, but found herself unable to leave her bed. So the next day, September 1st, there was a third reported incident. Mrs. Kearney of Marshall Avenue reported smelling a strong, sweet odor around 11 p.m. At first, she dismissed the smell, believing it to be from flowers outside of her window. But the odor soon became stronger, and she began to lose feeling in her legs. She panicked, and her calls attracted her sister, Mrs. Reddy, who was at the house at the time. One might say she was ready for this situation. Mrs. Reddy also noticed the odor and determined that it was coming from the direction of the bedroom window, which was open at the time. The police were contacted, but no evidence of a prowler was found. Around 12:30 a.m., Bert Kearney, Mrs. Kearney's husband, local taxi driver, returned home to find an unidentified man hiding close to one of the house's windows. The man fled, and Kearney was unable to catch him. Kearney's description of the prowler, get this, or of a tall man dressed in dark clothing, wearing a tight-fitting cap.
Shut up, people!
Shambhala.
Callback.
Yeah. So yeah, that started to become like the description. Some of the explanations. The three primary theories about it are mass hysteria, industrial pollution, or an actual physical assailant. The effects have also been written about by authors on the paranormal.
Mm.
So the mad gasser could be a mad shadow person.
I think it could be like just some guy that's aware of these rumors. He's just taking advantage of it. Because
Just some guy wearing a morph suit and a garden hose.
That would be like, one, you also spread your name as well in terms of like, oh my god, we're all terrified. But then at the same time, you actually have more power because,
Yeah, it could be copycats for sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah, people
it's like
start.
Scream 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People start hearing about it, and they're like, "Oh, let's fuck around with some people."
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you could easily do it.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty much unknown if it was mass hysteria or an actual thing that happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I can see that. It's kind of hard to test
yeah.
the air.
Well, apparently that was a thing too. They did toxicology reports and stuff. They couldn't really find any specific gas that would give people that, those exact reactions.
Yeah.
Huh.
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, I know it's also there's certain things like allergies for in some cases. I'm not saying all of them, but in some cases can be psychosomatic.
Yeah.
So sometimes if you come in contact with the thing that you're terrified that you're allergic of, your body will replicate the symptoms even though you're not actually allergic to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
So if
possible.
I was terrified of, that might actually explain my broccoli thing.
It's your body of telling you to avoid this shit.
Yeah.
It's like we clearly don't like it. Let's just
Here's the same
Let's
reaction.
make you sick. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's force it out of here. So the last one I'm going to talk about is Hwatch, which was a BBC drama.
Ooh.
And it was aired on October 31st, 1992. So both of the ones I talked about were Halloween. And it was just like a drama. It was presented as a live sort of paranormal investigation into this little house, little household in
We're reading about that.
Yeah, sort of like the tenements in England and stuff. And it was a single mom with her two kids and the two daughters. And the two investigators went in. Those two newscasters from BBC. One of them was actually the guy who played Lister in Red Dwarf.
Oh, that's cool! Oh my god!
He was the guy who was kind of on the street, interviewing the people in the neighborhood. If
and they still thought this was a real thing.
Yeah. It was presented as real. They never actually did any kind of announcement to say it was fake.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was. I've watched it. You can watch it on YouTube if you want. You can just look it up. Just Hwatch BBC. It was really really cool. Yeah. So they go in, they talk, and they bring in these paranormal investigators, and they'll do tests and stuff around the house, and they talk to the little girls and figure out what's going on. Apparently there's a poltergeist in their house named Mr. Pipes, is what the girls call him. I think later on they find out that he's the ghost of the guy who used to live in the house. He lived with his mom, and he was a little slightly mentally handicapped or whatever, and so he didn't really get out, and he couldn't get a job and all this kind of stuff. And he had cats. He had lots and lots of cats. And he loved cats, but I think he also killed them a lot. And
pet them a little too hard.
Yeah. And the few times that he had been seen outside the house, he was dressed in his mom's dresses and stuff like that. They paint the picture of this guy being a little bit of a disturbed character.
Yeah.
So throughout this, they'll occasionally go back to the BBC stage, and they'll interview a skeptic or a psychic or anything like that, and then they'd get people to call in and say, "Oh yeah, well I've I've got ghosts in my house, and I don't think they're that bad." And another guy calls in, and he's obviously a joke caller and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just all presented as being pretty legit.
Yeah.
And then things start going really weird, and you can actually, if you after you watch it, if you kind of look back, you can actually see where Mr. Pipes is, and he shows up in a few shots.
Cool.
Very, very briefly, and it's really kind of creepy. And stuff starts happening around the house, things start moving, all this kind of shit. A couple people die and all this kind of stuff. And then by the end of it, Mr. Pipes, they figure out that Mr. Pipes is able to get into the TV broadcasts, and then now he's able to get to the nation and all this kind of shit. And so at the very end, the BBC stage, all the power gets shut down, everything goes crazy, and then the presenter guy, I can't remember his name, something Dickinson. He's he gets possessed, and he says something about how he's I'm Mr. Pipes or whatever, and then that's the end of it. Yeah, it was really quite spooky.
And people just like reacting to it. It's like, oh my god.
Well, yeah, especially when there's no warning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So apparently, after the broadcast, over 30,000 telephone calls were made to the BBC switchboard in 1 hour, with some people claiming poltergeist activity in their own homes. There were 2 cases of post-traumatic stress disorder in 2 10-year-old boys. And it was the first recorded occasion that a TV show had caused PTSD. And then one man, 18-year-old Martin Denham, was so disturbed by the drama that he committed suicide 5 days after its broadcast. The central heating in his home had broken down and caused the pipes to knock, just the same way that they had in the show.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. And it said, Denham left a suicide note that said, "If there are ghosts, I will be with you always as a ghost." So it actually caused death. Like
Caused actual deaths.
Wow.
Yeah.
Killed himself because of it. And so after that screening, Ghostwatch was banned by the BBC for a decade. Since then, it's only ever been shown once on Canada's digital channel Scream and the Belgian channel Canvas.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Canada. We
That's
do
awesome.
things everyone else is afraid to.
Yeah.
Like, show ghost things and fight mooses.